With the regular season coming to an end, it's that time of the year where we start to get all our all pros, our pro bowlers, and we start to compile our lists of the best players in the NFL. So the NFLPA put out their first team all pro list. And if you aren't familiar with what that is, this is a list that is run by the players. So typically, first team and second team comes from the AP, and it's voted on by journalists. Well, the whole thing with the NFLPA is they want to kind of give the power back to the players, give the guys a voice who actually play against each other, and give them the opportunities to vote on this. And then they compile their own first team list. So, based on that, this is again voted on by the players. The San Francisco 49ers had 4 guys to make the first team all pro list. And let's take a look at who made it and also who got snubbed. There's a big snub in here. The snubbery is at an all-time high for the San Francisco 49ers. So let's take a look. As you can see, the 2 pictured are probably a strong indication that they made it, and they did. At the very top of the list, you have Christian McCaffrey and fullback Kyle Juszczyk with first team all-pro placement in the running back and fullback positions, respectively. And that's pretty solid. I don't think any of us are going to complain there. And then when you look at left tackle, you have Trent Williams holding it down, as we know, and as we talk about on this channel all the time. Trent Williams is arguably the best player on the offensive line to ever grace that position. So makes a lot of sense right there. And then if we go down to the defensive side, 49ers only had 1 defensive player make the first team all-pro list as voted on by the players. And it was Fred Warner in the off-ball linebacker slot. Other than that, that's all that the 49ers have to represent. There is no second team list that has been dropped yet. So it'll be interesting to see if they do that, and if so, who makes it. But let's talk about who didn't make the first team all-pro list that probably should have. Obviously, at the top, you have Lamar Jackson. I don't think any of us can really complain too much about that. We knew that Christmas Day game against the Ravens and the 49ers was basically the Lamar Jackson versus Brock Purdy Bowl, and kind of whoever won that game and had the better game would kind of come out on top in the MVP conversations, et cetera, et cetera. So we know Lamar Jackson had the better day, and so he comes in at top. I would be very interested to see, though, if Brock Purdy was on the second team all-pro list. I'm not sure if we're going to get that list, but I would assume that's where Brock Purdy would be, but that remains to be seen. I think the biggest snub out of any 49er on this list is George Kittle. When you look at the tight end position and it going to Travis Kelce getting all-pro first team, that feels kind of like almost like a legacy pick, like a Pro Bowl selection, just because he's been in that spot for so many years. It's like, we're not ready to move him off yet. But when you look at George Kittle's season, when you look at him being the only tight end to eclipse 1,000 yards receiving on the season, you look at his ability in the run game as a blocker and how crucial he is to the overall 49ers success on offense. That feels like a big time snub. And Travis Kelce did not have that great of a year. The Kansas City offense in totality struggled for the majority of the year. It was definitely probably his most down season in recent memory. So I think that's the biggest snub right there is George Kittle not making the list. Obviously, when you look at the wide receivers, you got CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill. That seems valid. When you look at the 49ers wide receivers with Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, I would say probably Brandon Ayuk would have a step on Deebo. I think Brandon Ayuk put up a top 5 season from the wide receiver spot. So obviously there's just not enough slots for him to make it. It would be very interesting to see if they did 3 wide receivers and if Ayuk would make the second team all-pro list. But as we know, no other 49ers offensive linemen. And then when you look at the defensive side, obviously at the edge rusher position, the first thing that jumps out to you is no Nick Bosa. You have Myles Garrett, Max Crosby. And we know Nick Bosa had a bit of a quieter season, starting out a little bit slow after the holdout and during the contract talks and training camp and all those different types of things. So we didn't get to see, you know, prime Nick Bosa in the sense of kind of like what we saw last year with his 18 and a half sacks. However, he still produced at a high level and he still played at a high level, just didn't make it to the first team all pro list. I would imagine he's on the second team all pro list. When you look at nose tackle, you have Dexter Lawrence, which makes sense, and interior defensive lineman Chris Jones, Aaron Donald makes sense as well. I would say maybe another snub to look at, or you could make the argument, is at cornerback. Deron Bland with Dallas makes it, and Pat Surtain with Denver. Now we understand Bland had a ton of interceptions this year, so that is definitely going to vault you up to the top. But as we know, Mooney Ward was able to come away with 5, which had him tied for 4th in the NFL in interceptions. But Charvarius Ward was also the leading pass deflector in the NFL from the cornerback position. He led the league in pass deflections. So I thought Mooney Ward could potentially be first team all pro. I definitely think he should be second team all pro. You know, Pat Surtain, we know how good he is, but is he deserving of it on that defense? I don't know for the Denver Broncos. So that could be a potential snubbery right there. And the most egregious ones, right? Where's Mitch Wishnowsky? How is Mitch Wishnowsky not on this list? Blasphemy. Where's Tabor Pepper for the long snapper position? Blasphemy. No, but in all seriousness, again, I think for the most part, this list is all right. It's not my favorite. I do think there are some 49er players that did get a little snubbery action in here, but again, it's voted on by the players. I just think the most egregious one was that tight end. I think George Kittle had to be a first team all pro. I think that's the biggest one. Outside of that, I think the arguments are fair. You can make an argument for all the other players. So no real issues there. It's the tight end one. How are you going to keep George Kittle out? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the impact of that decision to leave George Kittle off the list, if maybe he sees it, gets a little extra motivation. I don't know. What do you guys think about this list? Who do you think was the biggest snub for the San Francisco 49ers? Let me know in the comments. What is this a good list? What did they get wrong? I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.